now, as you all know. I don't need to tell you that the whole world is imploding in front of our eyes. And every single part of what the world was inside of the traditional dualistic world is still alive and creating a lot of stuff at the same time that they are transforming into the new consciousness. So at any one moment, it's like, my God, what's happening now? So the reason they decided that maybe we get together was to be able to really unwind any questions that we have about the possibility that we as a family and inside of the field can really act as the sanity that the world is an extraordinary need now. And the reason that I have this idea is because you have access to the entire field of consciousness, and you know what that is, and you know the new consciousness of life, and you know the entire scenario. If you want to, it's available for you to have the whole scenario of mind, to be able to be with all of us together, present 24/7. And if we say, no, I don't know if I can, the best you can, for the transition that occurs in the planet to become more and more active to the people who are innocently bombarded moment by moment by the extraordinary variety of consciousness that we created in time. And there is all dismantling because it's no longer interpreting inside of the fields of duality. It's now interpreted inside of the fields of unity, which is the reality that we will always talk about it. In this presence, the consciousness exists no matter what we're doing. It's ever present now. But the consciousness doesn't exist if we are not really actually humans interconnected with it consciously, or in any degree of consciousness that we can talk about it. Because it can be like another philosophical books and blah, 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 forever in time, because the only reason that something exists is because it is being perceived within the moment of life, at least in the new consciousness, because it is ever present now. It means that we have access to the entire field. It means that our evolutionary mind is, if it's not yet dissolved yet, it's going to be completely dissolved into the new one. But it also, you are the one who gave permission to the dissolving for the mind, like a computer, to make the transitions if you need it, to be able to become more and more consciously present through the actual experience of the self that each of us is. So the self is the union of everything. It's the connection to everything. It's the union of all the things that we have done as humans from the beginning of time, centuries and centuries of transmutation. And we are here. This is not to give you a responsibility of thinking, oh my God, I got to do it, blah, blah, blah. How am I doing? Blah, blah. Just to give you the conversation and idea that you are present every moment, and that we can, as a group, we can really agree with that inside of the field, and therefore through that agreement to be connected simultaneously in the eternal moment, atomically, that is, all the time. So not necessarily that we have to be in the same mind, it's just that we have access to the same intelligence, to the same feeling, to the same reality, and that each of us may interpret it a little bit different according to the circumstances and according to our own personal expression. But the field that we're sharing is absolute, universal, and is the field that we usually, every single human being is going to be. It's not like now the individuality creates another reality. The individuality inside of the field is the field, is the field, is the field, is the field. It becomes free from the traditional idea that an individuality, our individuality means that each of us is being inside of our own interpretation of consciousness. That's the most wonderful thing. That consciousness is consciousness now, and it has its own completion. So that's what I wanted to really talk about it. And I made myself available in the beginning to be a sort of a let me see, the receiver of the consciousness, because my entire life was prepared for it. I did it, but it's not a big deal now that I have received it, because it's actually my nature. It's not esoteric, it's not anything. It's my natural human self, which I suspect and I know is the natural human being of natural self of every single human being. So, since I know all this A to Z's, and I volunteer to be the one who knows it, instead of thinking, oh, maybe not, or right, maybe, or whatever, I know it. So if anyway I can assist anyone, all of us, or whoever, I'm here. That's who I am now. I am the embodiment, conscious embodiment of the new consciousness, totally simple as a human, and allowing the field to have a presence that knows the field itself completely. So it's not that it's the field and that it's me and I do the best I can in relation to the field. No, I am the field. And so I made this decision personally in order to occupy within the planet the sanity of our human nature, returning, if you may, or reconnecting, if you may, to a form of life that is benign for every single human being, that is intelligent, 100% intelligence, because it's not divided inside of the mind. There is all love, because we understand that that's what we are. So we are the embodiment of all the teachings of time, synthesizing in the simplicity of our human soul that has become the self. Because it was the soul, all the different interpretations that we have done thousands of times in our human, and it's the self, the one that now has embodied the soul completely, so that we are soulful beings in the presence of reality. And so anyway, just wanted to tell you, and I wanted to open the field. If you something that you would like to say, or something that you would like to ask, or something that you would like to volunteer, or something that you may want not to say anything, whatever. So I shut up for a moment. So then we leave the space free, and then whatever happens, we go. Yes.
So in my mind, I know this, right?
Yes.
And when I practice, I sometimes feel like, okay, I am embodying it.
Yes.
And what I strive for is to be able to do it continuously,
Yes.
easily. And I don't know if you can describe the steps to there.
To get to the, well, first is that you have to tell, now that you fast, to take that word. First, that your mind comprehends the reality is continual. It doesn't have any shifting, no? Clear. So what that means is the field is ever present. It's not subject to your own yes or no, whatever that is. So you're already connected in that. So if any time that let's say me being you, which I am too, that all of a sudden feel like I'm not necessarily in it, all that I need to do is to know that it's present and jump into it, get into the bus. Whatever.
So it's kind of remembering.
Well, yeah, it's twofold. You remember the longing, the memory, the experience, the desire, the process that have brought you to the desire to enter the field. But the field is not the remembrance, it's not the longing, it is actually the renewal of your consciousness, yourself, the planet, reality, all of it is because it's the moment of life becoming and the eternal becoming, what we call the eternal now. So you can bring yourself back if you feel at any one moment that you left it in whatever degree, or you are not clear because you know that it's ever present. But also you can really, I think if you do that, you're going to discover very quickly that Connecting to the field is actually connecting to the creativity that is actually yourself. So then, therefore, you immediately is going to really get many clues through your mind as the mind becomes whole, because the mind is going to say, "Oh, how I feel." Oh, you're going to start feeling great, of course, because the field you feeling great. It's impossible not to feel great. But if you don't feel great, is that if you can remain for the feel a few seconds, or if you need to practice a little bit, you will get it. You're going to start feeling, "Oh, I see, I'm feeling great." So the feeling great is not the feeling great. It's actually your connection to your natural self in relation to the field.
Christian, when you were talking at the very beginning, I was thinking how important it is, and how you've said from the very beginning that you made the decision to be in the field.
Yes.
And I find that is extremely important, to say, I am the one, I am in the field. I am the total consciousness. I'm allowing it to come through me, but I have to say it. I have to embody it. It has to be from me. And I think that's a very important thing. And as we're going through, certainly I have the same things coming up that all of you do. But I remember, I try to remember to say, I have chosen this. I'm here. I am in the field.
Absolutely.
And then that is hugely powerful.
Yes.
Hugely.
Yes.
And then, things can fold from there. But ultimately it's what we are. It's who we are. But right now it seems to be our decision. So this is my decision. I am in the new what's coming.
It will. Yeah, absolutely.
I am. And I think that's from my perspective and my work, that's maybe the one most important thing, is to say, I'm here,
Yes. Yes.
And you have done that. You've done that from the very beginning. You have showed us that ever since we started this whole thing. You've taken responsibility. You stepped up and say, I am this thing.
Yeah.
And it's an invitation for each of us to say, I am this thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
maybe I don't look like it all the time or feel like it.
Well, it grows because in relation to myself, I always felt that I was in the field and I wanted the field, and I always was like, ready to go. Here I am. But in that time, which was the process of the whole consciousness, that is me, I didn't know that the field was ever present and that I cannot never leave the field. I can never leave the field. I am the field, even if I'm aware or not. But then the idea of recognizing that I am the field and I make my choice dissolves that part of our evolutionary self that have evolved inside of free will. Remember that we are ancient beings, and inside of the story, and it's good to a little bit, even though it's a story, to understand the nature of the linear mind. The linear mind in our humanity evolved inside of the realms of duality. So what that means, that every single point along, even if we're not or not in and out of conscious or not, we were always making decisions about everything, every single moment. But we interpreted free will that you can do whatever you want to do, not recognizing ultimately the free will is that you really are yourself existing as life inside of the design of creation, which is not, doesn't have a will. It only has engagement to the presence of your being, which is everything. So that's the reason that it's necessary, perhaps the word necessary, erase it. That's the reason that it is advisable, we can say, that each of us said, I am in the center of the field, I embody the field, I understand it, it's the essence of my humanity, here I am, next. Go clean the kitchen, wash the dishes, make love, I'll do nothing, look to the sky, recognize, wow, here we are. And then what that does, at least to myself, and I can tell you, is that everything that is still confused has a conversation inside of the mind of the person, inside of the field of duality. And the person is emoting inside of the same field. If you watch the news and you see all the talking heads, everybody is talking and giving their opinions and giving reality to the confusion of the very separation that is being discussed. They're just beginning to appear, the notion of consciousness saying what it is instead of how the best to deal with the confusion of what it is. So the two sides of the spectrum is constantly blah, 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 blah. And innocently, the mind doesn't know yet in this particular situation that they are not the perceiver of the possibilities. They are the center of that creativity and that creation that resolves the confusion that existed in that dialogue. So the center itself doesn't have that dialogue. It only has everything is perfect. All the confusion disappear because it knows that everything is one, that everything is perfect. It has access to a degree of intelligence of a mind that is not divided inside of its own sphere. The mind is in a sphere connection inside of its own unity, and therefore it reflects unity and express unity among all confusion. But not to trying to resolve the confusion through the confused mind. It refuses because it's impossible. Because the innocently in the mind that we're coming from, being confused, it will be your thousands and thousands of reasons, and it will take you to the end of time, creating an idea. Why is it that things are the way they are? And they keep asking, why are things the way they are? When in reality, they're not. It's just that's the innocent play inside of that confusion. It never existed, but we, for the first time, have now the reality of being able to know that that's not so, and be the ones that, if I hear a conversation inside of the duality, um, just to give you an example, just to go to one place, just because it could become separatist for say it, but let's say the confusion that is existing right now between every single human being in the planet, or even in America, to be able to get the assistance that they need in whatever degree, and being given to be able to sense themselves better, either more healthy, more having access to more food, to more whatever position it could be, that it could be given by the very nature of understanding the unity. And then the other side of the spectrum innocently said, no, everybody has to have it for themselves. We don't have enough money. We create this and we create that. So it's engaged in a conversation that occupies the frame in which everyone has everything and everybody is everyone in the unity of the planet. And everybody has access to all things. And that particular knowing gets occupied by the conversation of the yes and the no and the no and the yes. So when I hear it, I don't try to make them guilty for the yes or the no, because I get crazy. Because the yes and the no at either side is very complex. It has to do with stories, ideas, philosophy, religions. All the things that we created in the evolution are all compartments of the mind to justify the possibility of not being the thing itself. That's the way it is. That's the way it was. But that very field brought us to the place that we are. So it wasn't that it was terrible. It was a conduit. But now that we are here, all those different aspects of interpretation can be assisted by each of us occupying the field. And then in the occupation of the field, we will get what it is. You will see it when somebody is inside of that conversation, for example, and I've judged them, but I said, get off of it. It's good. Connect to it. Connect. Give them infusion, because the wonderful thing about the field and our connection, and we have the power to really penetrate, is not the word, to occupy every single mind of humanity. Because we are the one, right? I can occupy every single mind of reality. And then in the occupation, I can assist them inside of my heart to really acknowledge the clarity they're already there waiting for, or begin to become, in whatever fainted degree, present. So the light, which is now ever present, can create the mathematical equation of geometry within the consciousness. So it can transform the interaction of the consciousness into a new field of awareness that correspond to the heart, the mind, and the reality of the self. So we are up. There is nothing more powerful than a human being. Just as we said before, there is nothing more powerful than a mind that decided it's going to hold the place. But it's not true. The holding mind eventually will dissolve, because the field is not relative to the will of each individual. That's the reason of the new consciousness. The entire evolutionary consciousness was relative to the will of each individual. The new consciousness, it is the existence of the fulfillment of the will. So it's not trying to dissolve the will, assess the will, and blah, 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 forever. No, it is the resolution of all things. So that would be an extraordinary assistant for anything that each of us partake of that, because it would be a wonderful thing for us, because we will become more healthy. Yeah, the mind, when the mind is divided inside of its emotional, mental, or physical innocent confusion, the energy flow is relative to that, because we don't have access to the geometrical connection to the light. And it sounds judgmental, because they'll say, you mean somebody has more light than the other ones? No, it's that the light is absolute, it's ever present, and it's everyone. So, that's what it is. So anyway, it's just
one of the a very, very powerful tool that I have for myself during this time, and really for every time, but it's simple. It's something that I know what to do. Is, with all this going on here, I check in to see if my heart is at peace.
Yes.
And if my heart isn't at peace, I have tools to do something about that. I can't do anything about the whole world out there. I can't, make a speech and change everything out there or anything, but I can make sure that my heart is at peace.
Yes.
And then when my heart is at peace, nothing is wrong.
Exactly.
So it becomes very simple.
And you are the most powerful.
The world has changed.
Yeah. And you're the most powerful person in the world.
Yeah.
The most powerful person in the world by the very nature of your nature, not by your mind holding. Because you can see in the evolutionary nature, we created many ideas of power: religion, philosophy, politics, and everything has been the battle to be who is going to hold the power, to change reality inside of their own interpretation of power. We all did it. We were the masters of it. That's the reason we graduated. Graduated means that we are in it. So we understand all those things that had all the innocent distortions, because the power in the evolutionary nature was a distortion that eventually will guide us to recognize that each of us is the power of the most powerful being in the world. Because if we are God, right? This is not like an idea, oh my God, I'm going to be God, blah, blah. No, if I am the image and the likeness, which is true, and I'm one with my creator, which is true, and my creator is everything, loves everything, and understands everything, that means that I also that too. I couldn't say, oh, God knows everything and I mean, no, oh, no, I couldn't, blah, 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 going into back to an enormous distance between the interpretation and the moment. So each of us is the most wonderful, the most powerful person in the world, because each of us is the self, the natural reinstatement of your human essence within the eternal moment of life, the natural moment of life. And the field of consciousness that is God. It's simple, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So anyway, yes, Carolina, I think it's wonderful. So, but it's a lovely thing. You understand what Carolina said. Being at peace with your heart means that when somebody innocently got returned back to the story, when somebody innocent doesn't know yet if everybody deserves everything or not deserve everything, or people have different stages of consciousness and different rationalities are more advanced in the light and everything, all that is not just only a conflict in the mind. It's a relationship of the heart to the pulse of creation. It's not up there in la la land. It's actually in the physiology. So if we use the heart as a thermometer of what we feel, the heart will let you know, because the heart ultimately is your mind. And your heart ultimately is the key to the open field that is the new consciousness. You know.
The heart, when it's open, it can't judge.
You cannot judge.
It's love, and
Yes.
and we each one of us have the tools. If we don't feel it all the time, we know what to do
Yes.
to get to a peaceful place.
Yes.
And for each of us, maybe it's a little bit different, but that place of peace is the field. That is it. It's from that place that things just change.
Yes.
And I can look out at the same place and see it completely differently, because it's coming from my heart that is at peace. And that is everything, you know.
Yes.
It seems very simple, but
Carol, it's a very sophisticated thing. I mean, it has been very interesting to me to see that shift happen just by thinking about it.
Yes.
It's extremely sophisticated, I think.
well, let's say it's at the heart of the matter.
It's at the heart
Yes, at the heart of the matter.
And I guess that's the idea.
Yeah.
That we
Yeah.
are, in that mode of connection to ourselves, and then the connection to all things. And it happens just with a shift of the mind. And I've seen it in myself just recently, really starkly. So it's extraordinary.
And then we just start talking different, we start saying different things to people. If our heart is at peace, we'll just say different things than if we get all caught up with, and those different things that we say are the things that are very powerful to the people that are around us, who are around us for a specific reason, to hear the things that we have to say.
Yes.
And we don't have to make them up. They just come from a place of peace,
Yes. Or you can do it silently. Start silently saying it. Silently mean with your awareness, just say it. Because sometimes when we say something, they feel innocently is sometimes it's so confusion that interprets many stories inside of the mind that is hearing it. And then it can become complex because you don't have the time to go through each of those interpretations and trying to
it's very subtle and very soft. It doesn't insist on anything. It's just,
Yes.
it offers peace.
I think that if I would like to say something to you in relation to, that the new consciousness have the 10 dimensions, as you know, of course, and the 10 dimensions, the last one is the great is not the great knowing, but it's the great perspective, the great perspective. So what that means is that as we enter the consciousness and we begin to commune with that, since we are everything and we are part of everything, we also begin to understand everything. And it takes a little bit of while of contemplation to understand I understand everything, I understand everyone. And judgment or compassion disappear into the word understanding. Understanding has more activity than compassion, or because compassion it was a lovely word, but it was inside of the evolutionary mind. The real mind doesn't have compassion. It only has action and creativity and doing and fulfillment and everything being given as a given. It's not turning back to trying to figure it out how it become there and why it's there in relation to what it is. So that's a wonderful thing to understand, that the great perspective, for example, is the understanding that you know everything. And when Carolina says, if you are at peace with your heart, and if something is not in your heart for one particular reason resolved, is that it's part of the knowing that has not matched that yet. So if you contact the heart will tell you what's the part of your brain that you're innocently interpreting inside of an interpretation that is no longer what it is, because the true mind never witness. The true mind is always with it. Witnessing is the innocent part of our evolutionary mind that uses perception as a way of perceiving something, and then it filters through the mind and almost atomically decided how it's going to act upon it. And we became masters of it. You can see it all the time. The mind became a master of how occupy the moment and transmutes itself into the next creation according to that transmutation, which does not exist in the new consciousness, does not exist in the field. The field, it doesn't, the mind of the field is 100% intelligence, and therefore is 100% given. It doesn't have one frame that utilizes the awareness to delay the experience to perceive what is lacking. It is never perceive what is lacking. It is what the person has already. Even if for a particular reason the person doesn't know yet that it has it, you are the only one who knows that they have everything. But it's not because you're good or I'm good or saintly or blah, 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 blah. It's just because that's the nature of the reality that we are. It's not subject to my love for God or my connection to God or saintly or good or clear or blah, 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 because the nature of my nature is much larger than the ideas that I created in evolution to give points to myself to allow me to continue with the voice of longing. So it was natural. It was a natural thing. We created books and books and books about compassion and blah 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 forever. But who we are, the way we're talking about the field, it doesn't have that. It is the knowing that everything is perfect, because in reality everything is perfect because it existed inside of that field from which all humanity is partaking, but sometimes yet maybe not innocently knows that it's available, or it is evolving inside of their own dismantling, undoing, if you want to use the word. So the divine can really change the way in which the brain interrelates thoughts and feelings and action, so the mind can get up in the morning and be more pristine than the mind they went to sleep with. naturally because it's connected to the field. So,
Christian,
yeah, yes.
going back to compassion. So compassion then being in the, the evolutionary realm perceives lacking someone. If you have compassion, it is perceiving lacking in that person.
Yes. Yeah. It categorizes innocently.
Yeah, that's
Categorizes.
interesting. Yeah, I hadn't put that together. Okay, that's very
Yeah. And it's beautiful, I mean, because when Carolina said when we are in love, we can say that we have compassion for every single being, but in reality, it's not that we have compassion for every single being. It's that we know that every single being is already complete fulfilled by the very nature of who they are.
That's why I love
You have to know it. If you just give them the reflection of everybody what it is,
Yeah.
the voice will continue for a few thousand more years, because the reflection of what somebody is perpetuates the same complexity of what somebody is.
Mhm.
You know what I
It's
mean?
living in the field where there isn't any judgment.
Yeah, non-judgment.
Yeah.
That's what the open field doesn't have any judgment.
No.
Well, you're right. It's just that I didn't have compassion in that context somehow,
Yeah.
So it's very thank you for that. I mean, just elucidate something.
Yeah. It will be like if you put it in the religious tradition, the maximum religious tradition that you can go inside of the story of us Westerners is Christ going into the cross, ready to go into the cross, and said, Father, what have you forgot me?
Yeah.
The next frame said, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they do. So it was just one frame in between, dualistic frame, right? In a sense, but in the middle, which is the real Christ, he broke that reality. He broke it into, I'm helpless, I'm gone. Why did you do it? And then forgive them because they don't know. So it created, for the first time, it took away the frames of justification of the mind, recreating its own, somebody is guilty, somebody not guilty, what is happening, blah, 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 and then transmuted into the reality of he departing. And that was it. But now in the new consciousness, we don't have that. The Christ is actually who I am, who which everybody is the natural human being that is not divided inside of his or her own mind. And everybody has it. And compassion is a very complex word because through the history of evolution, compassion helps us to really transcend a lot of the ego idea and becoming larger and share. And all the attributes that we created in that were based on compassion. But that was the last frame, perhaps, maybe it was the last word that when it merged with reality, dissolved itself from his pain and longing and age, because it was forever old, and renew itself into the youth of the consciousness as creation. So, but that doesn't mean
that is so filled with love. This is something that it's at least for me, it's kind of like a new thing, because even like when I say, well, we don't have any judgment, well, that could tend to seem like pretty like empty, kind of like, but then when you think of it, we don't have any judgment because we're just filled with love. And love, I mean, it just, we wouldn't even think of that because it's not part of who we really are or what we really are or any of that. But just coming into that now, it seems very, maybe hard to imagine that but I'm positive that each one of us have had moments inside of that. We all know what that is. We all have it. We all come from the same place. But to experience it all the time, I mean.
Well, I mean, eventually it has to happen because it is reality. It's not an accomplishment.
Exactly.
This is the first thing that you have to tell your mind. My mind, I say to my mind many times, do not give me the process, because you will entice me into 1,000 words and ideas and beliefs and spirituals and stories and books and everything, but you deprive me of who I am. So fuck off. I have to say to my mind, fuck off, because otherwise my mind will keep recreating me inside of the longing. And I said, if you cannot give me the right thing, you're out. Out. Yes, absolutely. So I understood it's nothing, that ancient mind is extraordinarily beautiful inside of its process, but extraordinarily clever in maintaining the separation from reality.
Yeah.
It's the most clever thing. It's like, you can call it as the devil's advocate if you want to put it that way. You know, the whole idea about when I said to you that when you have two people who really, they are very evolved inside of the mind, consciousness, intellect, and they're discussing the nature of reality. And then in the last moment, where it could be the possible that reality will show, one of them say, but playing devil's advocate, we can see it from that perspective. And then it opens the field again into this other loop of an enormous conversation inside of the madness of justifying something that doesn't exist. So anyway, one last thing, then I'll coming back to you, that I want to make sure that when we use the word compassion, we understand that it's a divine, it has been a divine attribute in time. Yes? But we have to see it through, because otherwise, every time that if we don't understand the compassion, is still judging the person that you are compassionate to.
Yeah.
You innocently think that you're talking about somebody else instead of talking about you. What I mean by that as we become more present with the field, there will be a moment, and I know you already have that experience, but it will become continual, that you understand that everyone is you.
Mhm.
You are the world, and you created the world as a natural expression of your own experience to bless you with the essence and divinity that is the ever-present presence of God. Remember that phrase that we gave? So that is a lot of things in it, but it also is reality that you know that you are everyone. And then you may get caught in idea, oh my God, like you want to punch somebody in the face, but that's the human part of you that, it's okay, it's nice sometimes, but you're not going to do it. And then you're going to laugh. You're not going to take it serious, because you're going to punch somebody, they're going to punch you back, and then you're going to break the whole field, and then you have to spend hours and hours trying to return back into your cell. That is good life. It's all a waste of time, but you don't judge yourself if you behave a little bit like silly, because the wonderful thing about human beings, that we are everything. We are the totality of the ever presence of God, but we are the ultimate dorky being, also because we are the whole of humanity. And some expressions of our humanity have been very dorky. Dorky means that for any particular reason, they're still inside of a system that innocently doesn't know who they are yet. They think it's all relative and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we don't need to go there. But we need to make clear that compassion is a beautiful word, but we are transmuting it into it.
It's separate. Yeah.
Yeah, transmuting it. And wonderful. So it's one less thing that we can project. So anyway, anything to say? Anything? Okay. I have an invitation to you, because what I'm going to do, when I didn't know that today was the Zoom. So what I was going to do for the Zoom is create a little scenario with a few words. And if you would like it to be, if you desire to do that, we can see everything one time from the perspective of religion. We can see one time everything from the perspective of philosophy. We can see it from the perspective of politics. We can see it from the perspective of medicine. Whatever, if it comes to your mind, because the mind is everything. I created everything, and I created all those art forms. But those art forms were created eventually to bring us to the simplicity in which each of us knows everything, not in which each of us is dependent on those forms and sciences. I never created those sciences to create people to make people to be dependent. I created if I want to put it that way, I created them to allow everyone to know the totality of the brilliant mind in which they were created, and they are going to be part of in their communion with universal, this brilliant mind, everything. So it's wonderful. Your mind is the most brilliant thing that you could ever imagine, because it's a direct reflection of the ray of God, which is the geometrical imprint of the whole of your mind. The geometrical imprint of the whole of your mind. Light. So that's who you are. And it's a lot of fun, I mean, at least for me, it has been a lot of fun, because I get to know how brilliant I am, but I'm not using it as a costume, because at the same time, I know that a symbol I am. The more connected I am, the more like, not humble, because that's another word that I have to go, because humbleness, the way it's interpreted, is a form of renewal, aloofness, a little bit, oh, no, me, no, And that time, I created 20 or 50 frames from the moment of reality. So it doesn't exist in it. But humbleness is a nice word only because it assisted in the story not to enter too much into the believing that you're so brilliant that eventually you're above everybody else, which that would be the ultimate madness in yourself. Yeah, the idea that you are so brilliant that you are better than anybody, or more clever, or more, because in the moment that you did, you created the phantom covering of the ventricles of your brain. And you transform the brilliancy of the ventricles of the brain into the cloudness of the relative mirror of the confused mind. So we are not, we are clear,
Thank you. Thank goodness you're doing it, Chris.
I'm really happy about it.
I mean,
I have to be,
without this, all of this going on,
it's important.
It would elude me for probably lifetimes. So I'm happy to.
Yeah, we are forever. We are forever. The new consciousness of life is not relative to a specific time. It is the eternal, that's what we call it, the eternal, what do we call it? The knowledge of eternal time. Because it's what it was forever, and it will be what it is forever, from which the mind function inside of a system that reconnects with the instant of creation. And innocently then is no longer engaged with the instant of relative awareness. And what I mean by that, the mind of time and the evolution, we became what we became because each of us were free to create. But you can see we created a lot of stories. My God, can you imagine all the different civilizations that there were?
As many stories as there are people.
Oh, yes. Remember that was a famous library that it got burned.
And every person has tons of stories. Can you imagine how many stories
all the
there
things
are?
of the story of time. Yes, absolutely. We created in time. And they were beautiful because they were imprinted within our soul and the DNA. And then what happens every time that we came inside of that reality, the DNA in each of us was more closer to the reality itself. So we all became more and more present through time, through the genetical imprint, sometimes more confused according to the evolutionary nature, but always trying to be more clear. But I think that this is the time that youth is becoming much, much more present with the natural reflex of the clear DNA and not subject to the story, to the emotional, mental, and physical interpretation of the story. And physical will be forms of disease, innocently. Like the idea that when I think that Chuck told me that he wanted me to do my papers and something like 28 or 27 or something that study the genetical form, and they tell you who were your ancestry. And then at the same time that they told you who were your ancestry, they told me in the paper all the possibilities of sickness that I could have.
Oh,
I know. And I said, oh, wonderful. Thank you very much.
It's all
I
stories.
know, I know, I
It's
know.
all stories. It's
I
all,
know, I know. It
it's
was,
all stories. It's all stories.
it's very, very,
All
it was,
stories.
but it was very sweet. I mean, they created it in order to be helpful, but they didn't know that when you put that a thought in the mind, the only possibility that to do it, it will be to say, okay, if that thought exists in your consciousness, this is what you do to release it right now, and not to keep it. So anyway, Darlene, anyway, I think it's wonderful. I would like to, if you would like it, anytime that you decide it, or once a week or whenever, I would like to make myself available to you, and you can call me at the phone, and also the possibility that we can create a connection via the phone, that we can every day just maybe like one word or one phrase that we can remind each other that we are in the field, because the field knows itself inside of the field. So because all words inside of the field are one word. They are not many words. You know what I mean? There are millions of words, but they are all related inside of themselves. Yes.
And all of that is so powerful. You know, just that one thought in the morning can shift everything.
Yeah. It's wonderful. It's wonderful, because then it sets your day into the connection, and then if a moment comes, the situation or something happens, wanting to divert it inside of a specific part, you can even surrender to and go there momentarily, or you can say no, thank you very much, or you can just remain quiet and just pass through. You know.
I'm just gonna stop the recording.